Okay, so I'm gonna start off introducing myself, and then I'll kind of get into the program from there. My name is Rachel Roble. I am the teacher of the Graphic Communications and Design program. I started here in September. Prior to that, I was in Royal Oak for 9 years. 7 of those years were spent teaching graphic design full time, and then the last 2 years I was there, I did graphic design and elementary art, and I mainly did developmental kindergarten, but I also had some first, second, and fourth grade classes in there as well. I have a bachelor's in graphic design. I have my vocational certification in graphic design. I have my K-12 art certification, and I have a master's degree in art education as well. So got a variety of things in my background there. I live in Waterford, so I'm not too far from the campus. I have 2 little boys that are 5 and 8, keep me very active with competitive dance and soccer. And I have 3 little dogs at home that I love to pieces. And when we're not toting the kids around to their sports, I love to do photography or anything else art related. And I'm a bookworm. I love to read. So you find me doing that. Or I also love Netflix. I watch Netflix a lot too. And then if we're not doing those things at home, my family owns a couple places up north. So you can usually find us up north hanging out with family. So that's just a little bit about me. Prior to coming to the classroom, I worked within the graphic design industry. So now I'm going to share my screen with you. Before I get into sharing the good stuff of the what we do in the classroom, I want to share this showcase with you. So on top of tonight's informative meeting, we are having program showcases, which are going to be evening sessions held 2 times a week from 4:30 to 6:30. And then we'll have a Saturday session once a month from 9 to 11 a.m. And students can come explore any of these programs. And obviously, if your child wants to attend my program, I am available for all of the sessions. So any evening session that's listed on here and any Saturday session, I am available. So if you and your child find tonight very interesting, please encourage your child to sign up for one of these evening sessions so they can actually come to campus and explore the program even further than just talking tonight about the program. All right, let me get the slideshow going. Okay, so Rachel Roble is my name. I'm the instructor of the program. And I want to share some pictures of the classroom. And after I share some pictures with you, I want to show some more about like the curriculum and things like that. So this is right when you walk in the main entrance of the classroom. This is actually one big room. The picture is just split into 2 here so that I can get a little bit of a closer up view for you. So this side here is if you're looking to the left when you walk in the door, this is our collaborative area. All these desks, obviously you can see they're on wheels, they roll, the tables turn. We have these big round tables here as well. And that's basically where we collaborate for group work. If we're not doing group work, we might be having a discussion about something and I have everybody sit up front rather than at the computers. We might have a visitor in class and students will sit up front there to listen to a visitor or whatever it might be. And we have whiteboards. As you can see, I have a big library over here where students can look at books throughout class for reference for assignments, or they can check them out to take them home. I have tutorial books as well that the kids are welcome to use during class and check out at home. And then this side of the room is basically the computer lab. And there's normally 4 computers to a table, but due to COVID, we have to keep the kids 3 feet apart. So some of the tables still have 4 computers, but we only have 2 students per table. And you can kind of see on this table in the middle right here, how there's only 2 computers. So the students sit diagonally across from each other. And then we have some printers and other things in here, which I'll show you in just a moment. And then my desk is off to the side over here. So this is the other half of my classroom. This is the production room, but it's actually serving as a production room / computer lab right now due to the spacing that we're required to have for students that are in the classroom. And you can see from the pictures I just showed you along with this picture, I have a big TV on each of the walls up front. So as I'm instructing students, what I am doing is portrayed on those TVs so that they can easily follow along with what I'm doing. And in between the two sections of the classroom is like a big open doorway. So I'll normally stand at one of the tables that's close to the open doorway so that both sides of the classroom can hear me without an issue. And the empty tables in the back here, I know they're kind of hard to see. That's more so if we are doing like cutting, pasting, anything along the lines of that. That's what those open tables are for back there. Here are some of the printers we have in the room. This is our large format printer for printing posters and banners. These are up here, oops. And I figure out, there we go. These up here are our 3D printers. 3D is not real big in our curriculum, so we just touch a little bit on that. Reason being is we don't have the software to do the 3D specific to our industry. So we just use an online website called Tinkercad, and I usually let the students around the holiday time design something in Tinkercad and then print it on the 3D printer to have to take home. So they get some basic exposure to it. Again, it's not a real big part of our curriculum, so we kind of just touch on it a little bit. And then this is our vinyl cutter right here. This is where we can use traditional vinyl or heat press vinyl to make things like tumblers, sweatshirts, goodie bags, frisbees, hats, backpacks, you name it. And you can kind of see in the picture over here, this little itty bitty white printer is what's called a dye sublimation printer. And that's for printing things for like keychains and puzzles and other like mugs and other really cool things like that. So that's just some of the technology that's in the room. In regards to a course description, I'm not going to read this word for word, but basically your child is learning the fundamentals of design. We talk about the elements, principles. We talk about what is graphic design and the various careers that fall underneath the graphic design umbrella. We learn the basic skills to succeed in the different softwares that we learn, which we'll talk about in a moment. In regards to multimedia interactive design, that's a little bit of the 3D that I was telling you about. And if time permits in year one, we will cover a little bit of animation and web design, but that's more so for exploring in year two, which we'll also talk about later on. Screen printing, we have a tabletop screen printing machine, but I'm not currently trained in that. It's a brand new machine to our room. So I, in the near future here, I'm going to go to some training for that. So we will have that up and running in the classroom so that we can make t-shirts and sweatshirts and other various cool things. In regards to bindery, that's more so for like if we're making newsletters or books or something like that, the students are learning how to take it from the computer to print to binding, where you know, it might just be like a spiral bound thing, or it might be a laminated thing, or whatever, you know, it ends up being. Graphic layout, that's basically the fundamentals of design, or learning how to lay out a magazine, learning how to lay out a newspaper, learning how to do poster layout, advertising, logos, marketing, things like that. And you saw some of the technology in the room already. There are other various pieces of technology that I don't have pictures of. We have a heat press. We have a cutting machine where you can put, you know, a large ream of paper in there and cut that whole ream at one time. We have digital cameras. We have a green screen. I'm trying to think of what other technology we have in there. We have all kinds of really cool stuff in the classroom. And the skills for business, writing, and mathematics, they're getting exposed to that because they're using math regularly. Obviously, like page sizes are 8.5 by 11, 11, 17, you know, 2 1/4 by 5, or whatever it might be. And while they're not necessarily doing the math for that, they have to know how to read a ruler, because in certain situations, you might be required to make a memo pad and you have to lay the designs up, 4 on 1 page, and they have to know how to read the ruler so that they know how to properly split the page so that the memo pads are laid out correctly. Or you might have somebody that comes to you, well, I want this font at this size, at this tall and this long and all that. So they're getting exposed to some math skills in there with writing. We call that typography. Basically, they learn how fonts work well together and all that. They do research on fonts, and they are required, while they learn about typography, to do a research project based on that. But instead of writing a research paper, they're writing their research on a creative document and making a typography poster with their research. So essentially, like I said, instead of a plain research paper that's 5 pages long, it's a poster that has all their research condensed into one, but they have to type it up and they have to know how to write it without plagiarizing and all those kind of things. And then we do reflections and critiques, and they have to know how to write for that. So they're getting exposed to that. In regards to business, they're kind of learning what it takes to do a project from start to finish, where like a client will come to us and propose something, and then they have to take what's in that proposal and make that project come to life. I'll talk a little bit more about some samples of that later on when I show you some samples, but these are just some of the things that they're getting exposure to in regards to budget. An example of that right now, I'm doing, well, I haven't gotten approval for it yet, but my 2nd-year students want to do a fundraiser for keychains. So we had to research, okay, what is it going to cost for us to buy these keychains in bulk? What do we think a typical, student or adult would pay for a keychain like this? And based on what's going to cost to order and what we think they would pay, how are we going to profit from this and things like that. So they're kind of learning about a little bit of budgeting in there as well. In regards to the softwares that we learn in the class, we have the Adobe Creative Suite. However, we don't cover the whole suite. We focus on Illustrator, Photoshop, and InDesign. Illustrator, they're learning the basic illustration skills and how they can pertain to careers. Same thing with Photoshop, learning the basics of photography and photo editing. InDesign, basics of page layout for magazines, newsletters, publications, books, whatever it might be. And that self-exploration piece, when we have time, is for students to explore Premiere, Animate, After Effects, Dreamweaver, whatever it might be. Here is a sample of, it's not our actual curriculum, but it's how we sort out our curriculum. So our curriculum has 12 segments, and this kind of shows the weeks of the school year and how we split them up. And you can see our 12 segments are listed here. We go over industry overview, safety and health, which is just, safety on the job, basically, and things to do and not to do, what to report, what not to report, OSHA, things like that. Intro to design and image development, intro to image output, intro to finishing or bindery, employability skills and portfolio, which in regards to that, your child will do a resume, and they will go through a unit with me where they learn about what to do and not to do at a job interview. And it is my hopes to eventually start doing mock-up interviews in the classroom as well with industry professionals. And if not with industry professionals, with an administrator from within the building, so that they can get some practice before they go out into the working world. Applied academics, that's where kind of like the math and the writing and all that comes into play. New media, advanced design, image development, leadership, advanced image output, advanced finishing, and project management. So those are the 12 segments. And again, this is just kind of a brief, like loose outline of, how many weeks are spent on those and where they're kind of spent within those weeks in the school year. We also have MTA, the Michigan Talent Architecture, which is soft skills like problem solving, critical thinking, communication, collaboration, positive personal branding, integrity. And there's a couple in there that I'm missing that I can't think of. One has to do with technology, and I can't think of what the other two are. And basically, they're soft skills that we're teaching those kids, because those are all really important to have in the workplace as well. You have to be, a self-starter. You have to be a team player. You have to know how to think on your feet and think critically. about things, and you got to think about, okay, I'm having this problem, how can I solve the problem? You know, we go through plan A, B, C, D, how many plans it's going to take to get through that problem. So they'll get lots of exposure to that, and they're actually assessed on those things as well. I also have this year, we have a social work intern in the building, and she does her intern hours in my classroom with students. And we do what's called Mindful Fridays. And every Friday or every other Friday, we'll do an activity off of the computer. Like we'll do guided meditation, or we might do yoga, we might do Pictionary. Just recently we did vision boards where students got to make vision boards for themselves, and it could be just for, you know, the year 2022. It could be, you know, for the next 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. It was whatever they wanted it to be. We just do various little things here and there just for mindfulness, you know, mental health check-ins, things like that. And that may, even though she won't be with us anymore, that may be something that I continue to do next year. Lesson samples. So these are some samples of lessons that I do with the kids. Obviously, there's a lot more than just these, but if I put them all in here, I could keep you here for 4 hours talking. So I just put a few of them in here. These are samples of some Illustrator lessons. So we learn how to manipulate text, and students are expected to take that text to make it look like an animal. And obviously they're shown by me how to do that. And then they're given these step-by-step instructions as well, so that not only can they utilize me as a resource for how to do something, but they have something with writing and screenshots that they can look back at also. We talk about logo design and the different types of logos that exist. And then they're expected to make so many logos, you know, for businesses and for themselves. And then we take those logos and what we know, and we get into branding and identity, and we utilize that to make something for ourselves or for something in the community. And we think about the questions like, you know, how can a team or a group or a company be represented by a single image? You know, is it easily recognizable what that company is based on that? Could it be simplified or changed in some way to still make them recognizable? You know, what are the essentials of a logo design, and how does that, you know, identify that company? And then we learn about how we can take those things and put them on t-shirts and invitations, and what can we do creatively to, you know, set that company's event or identity if they're not, you know, doing something for an event. How can it set apart from others? You know, where would we advertise events? You know, is it fitting for a target audience and things? So we learn about how you can take all of that and fit it into branding and the important things to think about when it comes to things like that. Another assignment at the start of the year, I spend the first 2 weeks off the computer usually. Week 1 is more so about getting to know the students. And then week 2 is when we get down to the nitty gritty of curriculum. But we start off with the elements and principles of design. And the assignment on the left, the fingerprints, that's more so once we've gotten on the computer and learned some of the basics. But fingerprints, they learn about line and color, and they learn how to type on a type path, basically. And that's their fingerprint. I fingerprint all of the kids, and then I give them their fingerprints, and they design their fingerprint based on the lyrics of their favorite song, or maybe it's a poem, maybe it's a passage from a book, whatever it might be. Line, shape, color, same thing. They're given some simple instructions to learn how to use the tools, and they create it on the computer. This is a sample of a tutorial that I give them that, once again, they're instructed by me how to do it, and then they're given these written instructions so that they have them as reference, and they're just learning how to utilize the text tool in different ways, how to type on a path, how to make your text look broken, you know, how to write it on an arc or, you know, on a squiggly line, how to distort it, various other things. Package design, we do that along with identity. We kind of do this brainstorming sheet first, or we talk about what are some words that could describe a drink. Although I've gotten to the point to where a lot of times if, excuse me, students don't want to do a drink, they might want to do like a snack in a carton or something like that. I'll be flexible and let them do something like that. What type of person would buy this, or what's your target audience? What are some possible names? You know, what are some different logo ideas that you have? And then pick your top 2 and design them at a larger scale in color and black and white, you know, on a larger sheet of paper. And then they're given their list of requirements. Like, okay, now you have all these components. Now it's time to think about designing the package and where we're going to go with that package. And this past fall, I actually let students pick different types of designs. Normally it's a milk carton and they have to put their design on that carton. This year they could do a carton, they could do a cereal box, they could do a soap box, a toothpaste box, or a critter carrier. So they had options this year. These are some samples of some student work just to kind of show you some of the things I talked about. This assignment was an identity assignment, but it was not about branding a company. It was about the student branding themselves. I give them a chance to really show me who they are creatively by doing a project that brands themselves. And they could do it on the computer with what they've learned, or they could do paint or marker or pencil or charcoal or whatever they want to be, or it could be collage, whatever it wanted to be. I let them use whatever supplies I had in the classroom. And if I didn't have it, they were welcome to bring it in from home to make it and to show off who they are. And the reason it was open-ended with all of that is because with it portraying their identity, I wanted them to do what really portrayed them and was representative of them and who they are and what they like best. And it was amazing, the different types of projects that I saw. And these are just two digital samples so that you can basically see what students are learning on the computer in my class. Here's another one. This actually was done on a student's tablet, and this particular student is a big fan of Procreate. We do not use Procreate in the classroom, but for certain projects, I will allow a student to use it for an assignment if, requested. They obviously have to talk to me about it first, but if they have this really awesome idea and it's not fitting of the curriculum, sometimes I'll let them bring a little bit of Procreate in there as well that they can then bring into Adobe Illustrator or Photoshop or whatever it might be. In this particular assignment, this was for the identity, and the student used Procreate for the whole thing. And the line shape color that I spoke of, this is a sample of that. So another sample, I talked about the package design and logo design. This was a soapbox. And then these two here were part of the branding assignment where the students were using logos to brand companies of their choice. The text assignment where they had to make animals out of the text. These are two samples from actually everything I've showed you is from first-year students, but these are two first-year students' work of how they manipulated the words to make them look like an animal. The client projects that I told you about, this is a client of ours. I don't know if any of you are familiar with the LA Cafe, but it's located in Waterford, and they do a Peace Fest every year. And it's tradition for our program to do the promotional marketing materials for that. So they have to do a poster, they have to do a t-shirt, they have to do a ticket, and then they can pick whatever other items that they want to do. And it's a group project. So I have some of the marketing materials here to show you. And that group project, it kind of all depends on how big the class is, but those projects were done in groups of 4 to 6 people. Work-based learning. So if your child enjoys what they're doing and decides to come back for a year or two, they can do what's called work-based learning, where they'll have an opportunity to go off-site and work within industry for anywhere from 1 to 4 days a week. Typical is 4 days off-site and 1 day in the classroom, but again, they can do elsewhere. They can do 1 day off-site and 4 with me, 2 days off-site, 3 with me, 3 off-site, 2 with me. It's totally up to them and the employer as well. The purpose of that is basically just to get more on the job training. They're getting on the job training in the classroom because we are a career center, but this is further enhancing their on the job training. So a typical day in the classroom would be me getting class started with a bell ringer, which is usually I do a joke of the day every day. They're very cheesy, but they're great. And then I have a sketchbook prompt. Every student gets a sketchbook from me for them to have in the class so that they can sketch out their ideas for their projects. And then with that sketchbook prompt, it's up to them if they want to do it or not. They're required to listen to my joke of the day. But other than that, the sketchbook prompt, totally optional. But one's put up every day, and it's usually something silly. Like today was draw a person with donut for eyes. The other day was something with a shark. I can't remember. I think it was draw a shark eating a taco. I'm trying to think of some of the other ones. Draw a $3 bill. And I can't remember what some of the other ones have been lately, but there's a different drawing prompt every day for students if they choose to do it. So that's how class starts. And then there's instruction from me. And it'll either be me instructing how to use tools on something, and then they're let loose to finish, or I shouldn't say finish, but to start that assignment. And then I walk around the room, helping students and all that. Or if we've gotten through all the skill building parts of the software, it's then to where we're doing more client related projects where they're given a real world project with specs and requirements, and they're told what's expected of them, and then they're let loose to do the job as I circulate around the room to check on how they're doing. So essentially like being on the job where you train for so many weeks and then you're let loose to do the projects that are given to you, and you just have a supervisor that checks in with you occasionally. And same thing for year two. Year two is a little more independent, but still essentially the same thing. And then there's the work-based learning if they decide they want to go off site and do that. And I'm not sure why this skipped ahead so many. I thought I had more slides than that in here. Maybe I don't. Okay, I guess I don't. I thought I did. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I'll explain a little bit more. I also have colleges that come in and visit in the fall to talk to the students. They are all art schools, CCS, Macomb, KCAG, which is Kendall College of Art and Design up by Ferris, Western Michigan. I'm trying to get Central to come in and speak. What else? Trying to think of what other schools I've had in the past. So I can't think offhand what other ones I've had, but they come in, they tell students about their programs, not just graphic design. They talk about all their programs, and they talk about tuition, housing, various things like that. They do portfolio reviews while they're in the room. Even if your child is a first-year child and does not have a portfolio, they can still pull up any work that they've done in class so far. Or let's say they have a sketchbook from home, which all my students currently pretty much have a sketchbook that they have from home that they always have with them, plus the sketchbook I give them. That person is usually always willing to look at that kind of stuff too. And students are always given a heads up as to when those colleges are coming so that they can be prepared with questions and things like that. Guest speakers, I try to have guest speakers when I can. I have done a couple this year. It's been more in my afternoon class than my morning class, but it's usually somebody from within industry, from a local company that comes and talks about what they do, what their job looks like on a daily basis. Sometimes it's a matter of us being able to take a field trip to that particular company. Like for example, I don't know if any of you know what a Heidelberg printing press is or not, but I know there's some local printing companies that have Heidelberg printing presses, and it's amazing to see those in action. So we might take a field trip to a print shop and see that. We might go over to another local like vinyl shop and see what they do with their vehicle wraps. We might just go to like a low-key design firm and see what their designers do every day. Another example of a field trip would be in the past, I've done assignments and we've gone on a field trip for the assignments. So for example, I did an assignment when I was in Royal Oak with language arts, and the language arts department wrote stories and we illustrated the stories. And then we printed and bound them together in a book, and we took the books over to a local elementary school to read them to the kindergarten classroom. And then those books stayed in that classroom for their library. And then any extra book copies I was able to take over to the local children's hospital for them to have. Another example of a field trip for curriculum related purposes, we have gone in the past to the zoo to do a visual narrative assignment where in Photoshop, students are expected to write a story, and then they have to plan out their storyboard where they use pictures only. And then once they have their storyboard situated, they have to think about, okay, we're going to go to the zoo to take pictures of our story. How can we best photograph these pictures so we can then bring them back to the classroom and put them into Photoshop and make our storyboard, so that if somebody were to look at it, they can understand our story without having to think, I wonder what's going on there. And they also have to problem solve, because maybe a picture gets taken and it's just not going to work for the story. Well, how do you still make your story make sense if you can't use one of your pictures? So it's a really cool thing to see. It gets the kids out of the classroom and interacting with each other, gets them to go to a unique spot. So again, those are some other examples of field trips. Before I continue on with anything further, does anybody have any questions? No? Okay, well, I'm gonna keep going. Music is played in my classroom every day. I have Spotify on. I usually ask kids every day what station they want to put on. It's first come, first serve. And we also have a class playlist. So at the start of the year, I'll give a link to a playlist and kids can add music to it. Obviously, everything has to be school appropriate, no profanity, nothing inappropriate, anything like that. Little fun story for you. I mentioned that first week of school, it's more so get to know you, like icebreaker type activities. And I have one that I do that's where we put our creative hats on and we write stories. But the trick is for the first story, you can't use a certain word. For the next story, you can't use a certain letter. And both my groups this year actually started with a story. And then when they went to the second story, instead of starting a completely different one, they continued the first story, but they had to change things up a bit because there were, certain words in the first one that they weren't allowed to use in the second one. And so their playlists were named after the characters from their stories that they wrote at the start of the year. And the stories are super fun because you're thinking of these things on the fly, and you might want to use certain words that have certain letters, and then you're like, oh shoot, I can't use those. Or you might want to use a certain word for the second one. You're like, oh shoot, I can't use that word or whatever. So it's super fun, gets you, thinking on your feet, gets you collaborating with your peers, and all that good stuff. I have colored pencils, markers, paint, things like that. If you ever need to check something out for home to finish up an assignment, you're more than welcome to take those supplies. You just have to sign them out on my checkout sheet, and you've got them for home to use to finish up your assignments. I mentioned earlier about my book checkout. You have books you can check out. What else can I cover with you? I feel like I'm forgetting something. Let's see. Talked about Mindful Fridays already. Oh, holiday time. Holiday time, I like to do special things. So for Halloween, usually bring in candy and we watch like Hocus Pocus or Nightmare Before Christmas or some other Halloween related movie that would have some sort of graphics in it. And then we do a Halloween related fun assignment in class. Christmas time, we watch Christmas movies, we listen to Christmas music, we eat candy canes, and we do a Christmas activity where you will actually get like a little 3D Christmas craft to make on the computer and print, put together and take home with you. Another thing we do, for Easter, I might bring in some Easter candy and we'll do an Easter related thing, St. Patty's Day, Valentine's Day. We always do those. In regards to the question about students being prepared to have certain programs on the computer at home, you do not need to get that for your child to have at home. Actually, with your child's attendance at OSTC, they will be given an Oakland Schools email. And that is what they're going to use to log into Adobe at school. And if they have a device they're using at home, all they have to do is put their Oakland Schools email in and they can use it for free from home as well. So there's no need. Thank you for asking. That's a very good question. There is no need for you to provide that for your child at home whatsoever. So, and I know it works because I have multiple students now who have used that at home because they've had an extended period of absences and they need to get caught up on their work, and they've had no problem. And if they do have a problem, they usually can communicate to me through Google Classroom, because Google Classroom is what I use to post assignments, and that's where students submit their assignments as well. So it's definitely very easy for your child to communicate with me if they're struggling to get into Adobe at home. A little bit more about Google Classroom. Obviously, as I was saying, that's where assignments are posted. That's where they submit them. And then we do contests and various other things in the classroom. The contests are not required whatsoever. So I just post them for students to have if they choose to do so, because I have obviously students work at all different paces. Some students finish early and they need something to do. So I'll tell them, go do that contest. And not only that, but students have an opportunity to win scholarships or cash. And college is very expensive. So I highly encourage students to participate in anything I post. We just recently did a logo contest for our Pontiac campus, and the Wixom campus and my campus submitted logos, and two of my students won. I had a first prize winner of $50 and the second prize winner of $25, and that was cash. I have some students right now that are doing Doodle for Google, and they can win, I think there's like 4 winners of $5,000, and there's one grand prize winner where they can win like $30,000 for college. There's a couple other contests out there for colleges. SCAD's currently got one, that's the Savannah College of Art and Design. So they can do that. Trying to think of what else. Oh, Oakland County does a financial literacy contest, so you can win prizes. That's out there. So they have the opportunity to do contests, but again, it's not something I require. So for teaching during COVID shutdown or quarantine, we have not had to do that yet. But if it were to get to that point, it would basically just be, so let's say the whole campus was shut down and went virtual. It would be kind of just like before, where students would be at home and I'd be at home and I'd be teaching virtually through Zoom or through WebEx, kind of like how I'm talking to you now. And students will hopefully have access to Adobe at home. If not, there are other software options out there that are free that your students will have access to use. In regards to quarantine, if we are still in person, but a student has to quarantine for an extended period of time, all they have to do is check Google Classroom and keep up with the assignments that are in there. And if they would like to join class, just shoot me a note and be like, you know what, Miss Roble, I'm in quarantine. I know you have my assignments in Google Classroom, but I'd really like to join you via Zoom if I can. And I can turn the Zoom on and they can join us for, whatever they might need to join us for. I know the guidelines with that are constantly changing. So that's what I know about COVID so far, though, for, those kind of guidelines. Let's see. In regards to contests, I talk about the Peace Fest already. We are doing a project right now. We are required to have 2 projects that are critiqued by industry professionals, and one is done first semester and one is done second semester. And we just finished the first semester one, and there's a contest called Skills USA, and it's in Grand Rapids. It's usually the second or third weekend in April. And students in multiple programs on our campus do that competition. So this industry project that I was just speaking of, we have an industry professional judge the posters and they pick the top 4. The top 3 go to the contest and the 4th is an alternate in case somebody from the top 3 cannot go. And that's not something that comes out of your pocket. The campus pays for your child to go to that if your child is one of the students that are chosen to go. And it's a great experience because it's right in downtown Grand Rapids. They get a chance to go walk around and explore like the museum and the shops. And then I think the contest is like 6 hours long, where they're in a room for 6 hours doing their thing. And, they get a lunch break and all that, obviously. It's really cool. I do another one called Mites. And that basically is not the student going and competing. It's basically your child can pick one project per area that's offered at that contest, and they mat it on a board. I take it to the contest in the evening, and the top 4 in each category goes on to states, which is usually a week or 2 later, and it's at any university that hosts, but it's usually Eastern Michigan, Central Michigan, Saginaw Valley. Those are the most common ones, sometimes Ferris. And the judging and all that is on a Friday. And then on Saturday, it's open to the public. So if your child submits work and wants to come, up to Ferris or wherever it is on a Friday night and see their work on Saturday and what they're up against, they can. And then Sunday is tear down and come home, and your child can win plaques and ribbons and various other things. So lots of really cool opportunities for hands-on stuff. I know I'm going to get to the second year in just a second. I just realized I haven't talked about the second year yet. They're going to get to do keychains that they'll get to take home. Holiday time, I do little holiday drawstring baggies where they make a holiday design with vinyl. We press it on the bags and they get to take it home and they get to put a little gift in there for somebody, or they keep it for themselves for something. So definitely some cool things they get to take home. Second year is more of, it's an independent study kind of thing, I like to say, because when you come back for a second year, you're considered a segment Q or a completer because you've completed all 12 segments already. So we can focus on the areas that you want to focus on. So my kids right now, they were all virtual last year. So they're like, okay, we want to do this area, and this area. And they all agreed they want to do the same type of projects because they weren't exposed to that. Next year might be a different story where my second years are like, okay, we were exposed to all of this. So we want to do photography, but in photography, I might have one person that wants to do food photography. I might have another person that wants to do macro photography or whatever it might be. And so we would just customize the different focus areas under, Photoshop, Illustrator, whatever it might be, so that that student can learn about those things. Or if it's something that they already have learned about, but they feel it's a weak point and want to strengthen themselves, we can work on that to strengthen that. Or let's say it is a strength of theirs and they want to just continue to pursue that because that's their career path, we'll do that too. So it's more of an independent kind of thing where we cater, or I should say I cater to the students' wants and interests so that I can make sure they're ready for college, for going in the career pathway that they choose. Second years in regards to projects for taking home, they're doing puzzles right now. So I have a printer that has a special kind of paper in it. And we put that paper on the puzzle and put it on the heat press, and that image transfers over to the puzzle, and they have an 80-piece puzzle to take home. They've done t-shirts, they've done tumblers. They want to do fashion design. So they learned how to make a vision board for their fashion that they wanted to make come to life. They then, after using magazines and all that kind of stuff, had to go on the computer and illustrate their design. And then they had to take their illustration and make it come to life in some way using the mannequins that I had for them. I had little drawing mannequins and other supplies like coffee filter, string, like vinyl recycled pieces, trying to think, pipe cleaners, cotton balls, Q-tips, push pins, whatever other supplies that I had for them. They had to make their designs come to life on that. And actually, if you're ever up at OSTC within the next couple of months, the fashion designs are in the showcase up front by the main entrance right now. So they'll have those to take home with them. So there's lots of really cool things that your child has the opportunity to make in this class if they're there for 1 year or 2 years, and they'll have an opportunity to take it all home with them. Any further questions? And I'm kind of just rambling on. So I'm in the next like 15 minutes, I'm gonna kind of take a break here and there and see if you guys have anything you want to ask. Okay, so game design. Yeah, for sure. So we don't really learn game design or animation or anything like that. That's not a big part of our career, but I will say I have learned from the colleges that come in to speak, illustration is a big part of game design and animation and all video, all that kind of stuff. So yes, this would be a wonderful start for him because he's going to get the basic illustration foundation that he'll need for going into a program like that. And in regards to colleges too, I mean, I don't know what kind of schools he's looking at, but I can tell you that Macomb Community College has a lot of really great classes in regards to animation, game design, video, graphic design, all that kind of stuff. So definitely something, for him to keep in mind for when he's ready, or even, outside of, going to OSTC, if they have like an extracurricular class or something he can take. They got a lot of cool stuff. And speaking of college, excuse me, we have what's called the early college program. So your child, when they sign up for OSTC, they can sign up for the early college program. And essentially when your child finishes high school, they're going to have an associate's degree from OCC. So basically what it is their junior year, they're at their home school and they're at OTEC and they're in one evening class. From what I understand, it's one evening class. And then their senior year, they're not at their home school at all. They're at OTEC, and then their afternoon is open to take classes at OCC that's part of this early college program. And then year 13 basically is the year that happens after graduation, to where I think it's a history course. And they have one history course that they don't take while they're at high school. They take that 13th year. so that it can still be counted as like a high school kind of thing. But other than that, history, yeah, I'm pretty sure it's history. Other than that history course, they're taking other design courses. So it's I think 2 extra semesters after high school, basically. But for the 2 years at our program, plus those 2 extra semesters, when your child is done, they will have a full-fledged associate's degree in applied arts, and it's free of cost to you. So if your child is interested in something like that, definitely make sure to inquire about that, when they sign up for OSTC, if they decide OSTC is a place to be. And even if it's not the graphic design class and they feel that they want to do another program, that early college program is for any program there they can get involved in. But for my particular one, it's an associate of applied arts. Any other questions? Okay, well, I'll keep chit chatting along the college lines. I had mentioned the colleges that come to visit, they do portfolio reviews, and if your child doesn't have a portfolio, that it's okay. The sketchbook reviews, things like that, they can do. And then the sessions that I showed you earlier, please encourage your child, if they're interested in this program, come check us out for those evening sessions, because they can come and explore the room and get a feel for it. And I think they might even be able to sign up for more than one session if they want to. I don't know if there's a limit or not, but please encourage them to come see us. Yep. And if you're coming in February, yep, that's where you'd be able to meet me and see the classroom. Yes, for sure. There's visits that are during the day where it's just the students only that come from the high school, and they get to see 2 programs of their choice, and they're with me. I think it's like 45 minutes to an hour that they're with me. And then there's also that evening showcase where it's 2 hours. And I think a parent can come with that as well, but I'm not sure in regards to that evening session if parents are staying or leaving. I'm not sure on that one. But yeah, most certain. Any other questions? And as I kind of said before, if your child is interested in a certain area like animation or game design or video or whatever, even if it's not something that we really cover because it's not essentially part of our curriculum, there's most definitely something that will be touched on, at least for that. And then the illustration piece will be huge as well. And for video, it's Photoshop would be more fitting for the video piece of it than illustration. But regardless, like I said, if it's not something covered in depth, your child is going to have some exposure to it, and the other programs are definitely beneficial to those careers. And they do some career research in class too. We are required, every classroom has a career tree on their wall, and we are required to explore the different career areas with students, and then they got to kind of research them, and then they got to pick, okay, I kind of feel like I fit over here on the tree, or I fit over here, and they have a little leaf that they put their name on, on the tree. So they're definitely gonna, be exposed, like what kind of money can I make? What kind of environment am I gonna be in, and that kind of stuff. And I try to get a little bit of art history involved in there too. Like we do a Photoshop assignment usually. I don't know if any of you are familiar with George Seurat or Seurat the Dot. So occasionally there's an artist like that. Or I'm drawing a blank. There's another one that I do with Photoshop. I'm drawing a blank on his name right now, though it's been a long evening. But they'll get a little bit of our art history in there as well. And it's nice too, some of these projects, they're, for the most part, I'm their client or their boss, but there are some actual clients that will come in wanting projects done. So it's nice that they get to see that, and that we do critiques and all that. And so they'll get plenty of feedback from their peers and from mine. It's a really neat class. And the center is amazing too. I mean, the whole staff there is absolutely amazing. I think, your child will, if they choose to come, will definitely enjoy being on our campus. If you don't have any further questions, I think I've pretty much covered everything.